China, the home of dim sum, martial arts, and the world's biggest esports communities. Any game that wants to be popular on the world stage has to have a strong Chinese fan base. League of Legends is the world's most popular esport, and it has been able to maintain that title for nearly a decade thanks to its overwhelming support from the Chinese gaming community. If you look at the overall demographics of League of Legends, you will quickly realize that 90% of all ranked players come solely from China. China made League of Legends the biggest esport. So what happens if this market is no longer part of the equation? On August 30th, 2021, China issued sweeping regulations banning children under the age of 18 to just 3 hours of gaming per week. China plans to enforce the ban by requiring minors to register with their real names and requiring gaming companies to have either government ID checks or facial recognition built into their software. Without its core audience, is this going to be the beginning of the end for League of Legends? How is this going to affect the youth in China? And without Chinese money backing it up, will League of Legends even be able to survive into the next decade? Is the Chinese Communist Party the real League of Legends killer? Today, we will take an in-depth look at the politics surrounding this ban, what's going on in China, and everything related to gaming. Also, we can answer one simple question. Is this going to be the end of League of Legends? This is League of Documentary. Thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Keeps. If you're one of the 2 out of 3 guys that will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time you're 35, the best way to prevent hair loss is to do something about it now while you still have hair left. Keeps is a subscription service that focuses on making it easier and more affordable for men to treat their male pattern baldness online. All you have to do is sign up, talk to one of the doctors, who will recommend you a formula based on your own specific hair loss problems. With fast, automated shipping and delivery to your home, constant access to your doctor through online messaging, Keeps is one of the most convenient services out there. Keeps offers generic versions of FDA-approved medications for hair loss, which makes it more affordable and easier to get, especially if you live in America. If you're ready to take action to prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/Donghuaplol or click on the link in the description to receive 50% off your first order. That's keeps.com/Donghuaplol. Okay, in order to talk about the ban, we have to understand first why China's banning gaming. Now, there are a lot of reasons for this, relating to the economy, politics, and statistics in China. You are not going to be able to understand the geopolitical situation of the world's second largest economy by watching a League of Legends video. But I'm going to give you a really stupid TLDR so you can have some idea of what's actually going on. China is basically a country with a gender identity crisis. You see, China calls itself a communist society, but in reality, they've partaken in a lot of capitalism over the years. It's mixed in with a little bit of socialism and some fascism, so it's really hard to label China as one thing, even though they call themselves communists. China's had a personal identity crisis for a very long time, but at the heart of its system is a dictatorship that does rule over China with an iron fist. We'll just call this system the Winnie system, because honestly, China has been doing a lot of winning over the last 100 years. The Winnie system uses the biggest advantage that China has on the rest of the world: human bodies. When you have a population in the billions, you can reduce labor costs to pretty much nothing and exploit those low prices to attract foreigners to make shit in your country. That's how the whole made in China thing started. Everyone made their things in China, and that made China really fucking rich. Their slave labor, friendly communist fun factories, made them the manufacturing hub of the world. China has been able to modernize their country in just under 100 years. The Winnie system has been able to pull more people out of poverty than any other time in human history. China's essentially speedrunning developing a nation. Here's the problem. When you speedrun things, you're breaking rules. You're breaking mechanics, and you're breaking the safeguards that the devs put into the game for a reason. Countries don't have save files. Once you make a mistake, you're gonna be fucked for the next 100 years. And China's biggest mistake thus far has been the one-child policy. Basically, China told everyone to stop fucking making kids. So people stopped fucking. And since people stopped fucking to fucking make kids, China's running out of fucking people, so China's completely fucked. China's biggest advantage in the market was its cheap labor. When you increase the quality of life throughout your population, while it's very good for the people living there, it also increases the total cost of each individual worker. Simply put, China is no longer the cheapest manufacturing option in the world anymore. They have to essentially reinvent their entire economic strategy. They are facing a whole host of issues. Their housing market is a giant bubble that could collapse any day. Their country is in heavy debt. They have actual concentration camps that most Chinese people don't even know about. This is what happens when you try to speed run a world superpower. China has to essentially reinvent their own identity, and they have to go from a country that's used to making stuff to a country that is now inventing stuff. But there's a company that's sort of getting in the way of that, and that little company is called Tencent. You might have heard of Tencent before. They are one of the most powerful companies in the entire world. Have you ever played this classic board game called Monopoly? Well, if you've ever played Monopoly, then you know that that game is really shit. Monopoly doesn't even count as a game because it's impossible to fucking have fun while playing Monopoly. Monopolies in real life are 100 times more unfun to play against. There are two main tech monopolies in China, Alibaba and Tencent. Alibaba is basically the Amazon version of China, and it was founded by this guy called Jack Ma. Jack is really rich, but he's also really egotistical. Imagine if Jeff Bezos and Donald Trump fused into one Asian. That's Jack Ma. During one of his most important events, in a public speech, Jack basically said that the Winnies of China were retards and didn't know what they were doing, while he was a business genius and they should just listen to him. Big mistake. Winnie took out his big honey dipper and smashed Ma in the head with it. Ma disappeared publicly for several months, and after when he came back, he was like, "Yes, Daddy, sorry, Daddy, you are the leader, Daddy." Pony Ma is the founder of Tencent, and he is basically the good boy of the family. Need money? No problem, Daddy. Here's $50 billion to the CCP. New regulations? No problem. We're ready to fulfill whatever you want, Daddy. Tencent has always been a loyal and eager follower of the Winnie system. And because of how well they've sucked off Winnie's honey dipper over the years, they have been able to become one of the biggest monopolies in the world. Most Americans know WeChat as that one chatting app that the Chinese guys use. But in China, WeChat is so much bigger. This app is the only real form of payment that most Chinese people use. True story, last time I went back to China, my cab driver couldn't give me change for my fare because he said to me, "I don't remember the last time anyone has ever tried to pay me with cash." WeChat is basically Facebook Messenger, Discord, PayPal, and your debit card all rolled into one app. And that one app is owned by Tencent. Imagine for a second if Spotify, Facebook, online advertising, Hollywood, and 100% of the gaming industry was all rolled into one single company. That's pretty much what Tencent is in China. Tencent also happens to own 100% of Riot Games. You know, those guys that make League of Legends. So when you have the biggest tech monopoly in China owning 100% of League of Legends, if you're a competitor, there's no way in hell you're ever going to be able to overtake League. Tencent owns pretty much the entire online entertainment industry. They have no incentive whatsoever to let League of Legends die out. The only way that League of Legends dies in China is after we get that sort of Ready Player One, Sword Art Online type of VR shit. Let's take a look at exactly how much of a monopoly League of Legends is in China. Dota 2 is League of Legends' biggest competitor, and in order to download Dota through official channels, you have to have a Steam account in China. Steam has an inherent age restriction of 13, which means that nobody can immediately download Steam whenever they want. But in order to play League of Legends in China, all you need is a QQ account. QQ is a messaging service that pretty much everyone in China uses. It's like having that messenger app on your phone, pretty much built into every device that you can find into China. Because of how easy it is to sign up for League of Legends, it's usually the first major game that most Chinese people experience. Tencent owns most of the social media sites that are used in China. They've often used this advantage to be able to leverage League of Legends' image in a more positive light by the general population. Video games up until 2010 had always had a very negative connotation in China. This is primarily because the CCP had banned foreign gaming consoles in the early 2000s. Xboxes and PlayStations, if you wanted to get one in China, you had to go through the black market. The Chinese government called gaming as addictive and destructive. So many Chinese citizens saw gaming in the same light that they saw something like drugs. Tencent literally had to overcome and change Chinese culture in order to get League of Legends to be popular. They made a ton of partnerships in order to promote League of Legends to the wider audience. They got celebrities to endorse and voice characters in-game, businesses to give discounts and perks for your League of Legends rank. They even got a bank to issue a League of Legends credit card that looks badass as fuck. Tencent does a ton of work to promote League of Legends to their audiences. They understand that there are different categories of fans: hardcore fans, casual fans, and fans who just like to watch League. This is Douyin. It's essentially the Chinese version of TikTok, and it is designed specifically for native Chinese people. Tencent actually has prepared content ready for each group of fans, depending on how into League of Legends they are. They make sure they have suitable content for not just the highest ranked challenger solo queue players, but also casuals who just watch animal and baby videos on these sites. Tencent calls this strategy robbing users of their time. If you constantly put the idea of League of Legends into their minds, they are more likely to try it out. But the most impressive thing that Tencent has done with League of Legends is the cultural victory that they have achieved. Because of their good relations with the CCP, they have been able to brand League of Legends as the Chinese cultural icon. What does this mean? Well, in the same way that apple pie, the American flag, and guns are sacred in America, League of Legends is sacred in China. The challenge to take away League of Legends from these guys is about as difficult as taking guns away from these guys. Gaming companies in China don't even try to compete with League. They know it's pointless since League is essentially too big to fail. Instead, new developers focus most of their resources on mobile games, single player, and VR gaming. When a monopoly is too big to fail, it stifles competition. That's true for gaming, and it's true for any other tech industry. China needs to be able to evolve into a first world country. In order to do this, they have to go from making and assembling iPhones to inventing the next iPhone. If tech monopolies like Tencent and Alibaba exist, then these new innovations won't be able to appear. The truth is, these bans really have nothing to do with the gamers at all. It's really about a political system that's trying to unfuck itself. So what do the bans actually do? What's significant about them? There's over 100 million underage gamers in China. That's a third of the population in the US, which means there's going to be at least a few hundred of these kids who make it to the Challenger and Grandmaster solo queue ladders of their respective regions. Here's how the Chinese develop talent. They look at the solo queue charts, and then reach out to anyone who's high elo. If any of them are kids, and if any of them are willing to, they will fly them out, put them in a gaming house, feed them, train them, and see if they develop into pro players after a few years. It's basically like a Challenger elo sweatshop. Again, China's biggest asset is population, so they will use this advantage however they can, whenever they can. But with the new regulations, all of these kids that were recruited under the system have to be sent home now. You can't realistically house 20 kids and then say to the government, oh, they just play 3 hours a day. Why, yes, of course you can be Challenger with just 3 hours of practice every week. That's why they're here, because they're that good. The biggest losers of this ban is going to be the Chinese esports development scene and the kids that have been under this system for several years. Now they have to essentially go back home without being able to stay in top form for their LPL debut. If they can't make it, then they've wasted years of their life just playing League of Legends with no upside in the end. These reforms might be devastating for the young pro scene, but how effective are they for the rest of the country? Chinese gamers don't own PCs. They're simply too expensive for the average Chinese worker. So instead, they go to gaming cafes to play. Gaming cafes are super nice in Asia. They're clean, they serve delicious food, and they honestly look and feel like 5-star hotels. The current policy in China is to require patrons to show ID before being allowed into the cafe. Similarly to how bars here in America require you to show an ID before serving you alcohol. But in China, they don't even give a shit if the ID that you present is even yours. The fact is that most of these internet cafe owners don't enforce these restrictions because they don't suffer any real consequences for not enforcing them. It's simply too difficult in the land of the counterfeiting to try and make sure that every single ID is real and legit. Most of these kids just have to present an ID and they'll just let them in. Does it matter if the person in this picture looks like you? Not really. Does it matter if this kid gets in with this ID? No, because the people that are checking them don't give a shit. These restrictions are about as effective as the porn sites that ask you whether or not you're really 18 years old. Here are the restrictions that should be paid attention to. China is banning any new video games from being released into the market. They have been clamping down hard on any pieces of entertainment that encourage violence or have non-traditional family values. China is unfortunately pretty homophobic, and they really don't like it when same-sex ideas are popularized. Let's take Japan for example. Japan and China have a long history of hating each other, but anime is super popular in China. Half of the Chinese pro players have some sort of anime reference in their summoner's name. The creation of porn is banned in China, but not the consumption of porn. So guess where all of the Chinese are getting their porn as well? All of that yuri, yaoi, and other fun things that Japan has introduced into the Chinese sexual ecosystem? Well, let's just say that Winnie's not super happy about all that. So, how did the Chinese citizens themselves feel about all this? Well, this is not the first time that China has released blanket bans or restrictions on things that are pretty much impossible to regulate. One of the biggest problems that Chinese people are facing right now is the issue of work-life balance. The Chinese call it 996. 996 refers to the hours a person works, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. This is pretty common in most major Chinese companies.
996它其实不是严格意义上的，就是说晚上9点下班，一周工作6天这个样子，而是现在它变成了一种，就是随时为了工作要处于一种待命的一个状态。那也就是说，你可能随时随地都需要工作。
One of the main reasons that the population has been slowly declining is because of the insane work culture. Gaming is one of the most popular stress relievers in China. So when the ban was announced, many Chinese citizens took to the internet and started making fun of the CCP. Start by studying the Book of Xi. Grow up and start 996. Produce offspring. If you don't have a kid, you are a sinner for 1,000 years. Slave for a house, a car, a mortgage, and your wife and kid. Work 996 even if your house and car are taken away. Even if your wife cheated on you and ran away, still work 996. Even if you are 1 foot into the grave, you should still work 996. Remember to be thankful to the chairman, and I am not worthy as a son. China has been doing a lot of things to try and make it easier for parents to have kids. The private tutoring industry in China is a $100 billion industry. Yet this industry was ruthlessly slashed and deemed illegal by the CCP because they want childcare to be cheaper for the next generation. After that, the CCP encouraged parents to take a more personal and active role in their child's early education. But as many Chinese citizens pointed out, how the hell are parents supposed to take care of their kids, educate them, and give them a good home lesson when they have to work 996? The Chinese government has actually outlawed 996 as a work practice. The official policy is to make sure that people are able to have Western hours, not working for more than 8 hours a day on average. But the fact is that companies don't actually practice this. If you are a Chinese company in the Chinese market, you're competing against other companies that all do 996. So if you're not forcing your workers to become slaves, you're going to lose to the competition that is willing to use slaves. Many of the regulations that the CCP tries to enforce just doesn't work because of the insane population. It's just insanely hard to change the behavior of 1 billion people. Many of the Chinese netizens are having a good sense of humor about the whole situation. They know that it's not possible for the government to realistically enforce these restrictions, and so they just openly joke about it on the internet. This is just a misunderstanding. The government's real plan is to let parents see that even without video games, their kids will still be shit at school. Sexual consent in China starts at 16. The video game ban lasts until 18. Clearly, this is a ploy to get 16-year-olds to start adding to the population. This probably happened because some CCP member's kid got flamed during his ranked game. Here's what the Taiwanese have been saying about the ban. The only reason that League of Legends is so popular in China is because they get a real taste of democracy and vote on something meaningful at 15 minutes. The most shocking ban that has come in the last few weeks is the complete banning of English teaching. English is a core part of every Chinese kid's education, but now it's actually illegal to test students on English. China is banning foreign teachers from teaching Chinese students online if they live apart from China. They have also banned all forms of cryptocurrencies from individuals and from banks. China is essentially moving closer and closer into a pseudo-North Korea type society. Winnie might become Mao 2.0. The question is, why are they doing all this? China needs to evolve. They need to change the way their society runs if they want to become a first world country. But with the amount of free market that currently exists in China, a lot of the culture war has been lost to the West. Winnie is losing control over China not because of America's military, but because of Marvel movies, feminists, and weebs. But at the end of the day, Tencent is a loyal CCP supporter, and Riot Games is 100% owned by Tencent. Most of the gaming bans that have come out thus far are mainly targeted towards mobile games rather than PC ones. In the past, the CCP has also supported League of Legends as a national pastime. Realistically, there's no reason to believe that these gaming bans are going to be a detriment to League of Legends. So basically, Chinese Yasuo mains are still free to run it down mid, just like the rest of the world.